A vote for Kamala Harris is a vote against women and girls. There is so much mis and disinformation out there about abortion and miscarriage care, but it's not just that. We are also going to look at how Kamala's policies on illegal immigration, on gender, on Title IX, even on the military will significantly negatively impact our daughters, our granddaughters, our sisters, our moms, our friends. And so make sure that you listen to or watch the entirety of this episode. Share it with those who may still be undecided in these final hours before election 2024. This episode is brought to you by our friends at Good Ranchers. Go to goodranchers.com. Use code Allie at checkout. That's goodranchers.com, code Allie. Hey guys, welcome to Relatable. Happy Monday. Hope everyone had a great weekend. Well, it's a slow news week, y'all. We got nothing to talk about. We could talk about, my refreshed airport attire rules. We could talk about why I have a fear of inanimate butterflies. I don't know what this goes back to. It goes back to something in my youth, and I can't quite put my finger on it. Or let's see, what else could we talk about? Oh my gosh, the future of Western civilization is determined tomorrow. I almost forgot about it. Okay, good thing that my team prepared this research document, and we are going to go all in on the election today. Specifically, we are going to focus on how this affects women and girls. And do I really think the future of Western civilization rides on how tomorrow turns out? I will get into all of that today. But first, let's just take a deep breath, okay? It's Monday. It's the start of the week. We have said this many Mondays, but I want to remind you, especially this Monday, okay? Because some of you have already messaged me on Instagram today telling me you woke up anxious. And first of all, I'll say I feel you. I have been battling just a feeling of nervousness and dread over the past few days, but this is what I absolutely know for sure. And I feel this in my bones, what I've said a million times, that God's eternal plan of redemption is going off without a hitch. There are no bumps in the road. He's not sitting there waiting to see how the election turns out. He's not wondering what's going to happen next week or next year or next century. Nothing surprises him. Nothing throws him off. Nothing takes him aback. He is on his throne, and everything that God in his sovereignty wills will come to pass. And we can trust that Jesus is coming back, and one day there will be no more politics, there will be no more elections, there will be no more propaganda, no more media emotional manipulation, there will be no more abortion, there will be no more war, because Jesus will rule in perfect peace and Satan will be destroyed forever. And we get to look forward to that day. We walk as people who have already won in Christ, and we can trust that. We can rejoice in that. If Donald Trump wins, I will be saying, let's freaking go. I think this is amazing for the country. We at least stave off some of the destruction of progressivism, at least for 4 years. We can look forward to justice reigning in some ways, like pro-lifers being released from jail, possibly Planned Parenthood being defunded. We can certainly look forward to a better economy. We can look forward to evildoers being deported and being treated in a way that is just, that protects the rest of society, innocent people. We can trust that we will not have a health and human services department that recommends that children who are deceived about their gender get double mastectomies, puberty blockers, and chemical castration. In short, we can look forward to a country that looks more like Romans 13, where good is rewarded and evil is punished, rather than the opposite. So I will be saying, let's go. This is God's mercy on our nation if Donald Trump wins. And I have voted to that effect, and I encourage all of you to vote to that effect. Politics matter because policy matters, because people matter. Politics affects policy. Policy affects people. People matter to God. people matter to us. And voting is a way to love your neighbor. I think voting for Donald Trump is a way to love your neighbor because the policies that he advocates for promote better peace and order for our neighbor. However, if Kamala Harris wins, I will also be saying, let's go in a different way. Not because it is God's mercy on our nation, but because I think it is a sign of his judgment on our nation. And I think that things will get ugly. I do. I think that things will turn dark. I do. I think it will look like the opposite of Romans 13 because I've looked at Kamala Harris's career very closely and we've talked about it many times. I think that good will be punished and evil will be rewarded because that's who Kamala Harris is. She seeks authorities on the pro-life reporter and she rewards those who are actually committing the abortions. That's what she did when she was Attorney General of California. That's what she continues to do to this day as she allows and helps the DOJ arrest and jail peaceful pro-lifers like 74-year-old Joan Bell. And so I think that we are going to see a lot of evil and we will look exactly policy-wise what that will look like in today's episode. The reason I will be saying let's go still is because I think that this will be an incredible moment for Christian courage. I think this will be an incredible moment if she wins, and I pray to the Lord that she does not. It will be a moment for God's church to shine, and I pray that he will use it as a means for revival, as a means for a reawakening, that the scales will be removed from people's eyes and that they will see the evil of this ideology and what it looks like to truly have a wicked person in power. Now, some people, unfortunately, I think will stay blinded, but I think a lot of people's eyes will be opened. There were people whose eyes were opened by Biden's presidency, whose eyes were opened after COVID and after the George Floyd riots. Believe it or not, a lot of Christians who gave in to that propaganda at the time, they have really opened their eyes in the past few years. And that actually could be what wins this election for Donald Trump. But even if not, I do believe that God uses times of great wickedness to draw his people to himself, to seek the lost sheep, and to create a vigor and a resolve in his people who so obviously stick out like a sore thumb in the midst of this post-Christian culture. And if it happens that abortion can no longer be restricted in any state. That's what Kamala Harris has promised to do. Of course, she alone doesn't even have the power to do that, but Congress does. So if Congress went her way and she was able to sign that bill into law, if that is the case, yes, we are saddened by that, of course, and we mourn because of that. But after we are done crying, we pick ourselves up and we go back to the front lines and we continue to do the unseen, unsung work that the church has always done. And we remember this, that from Nero to Newsom, from Herod to Harris, Jesus reigns. And the gates of hell will not prevail against his church. Okay? So we're joyful. We're strong. We are hopeful. And yet we understand that we do occupy the here and the now. We occupy this temporal physical space. God has placed us here on this tiny speck of eternity, on this small spot of the universe for a reason. Because we were placed here by God who does nothing accidentally or spontaneously. He does everything providentially and purposely. And one of the ways that we as Christians in the United States living in 2024 get to affect change, get to help change the culture for the better, get to help protect the most vulnerable is to vote, is to have a voice in our culture. Just completely ignore any of the ridiculous rhetoric that says if you engage in politics with the full force of your Christian worldview, then you are some kind of scary Christian nationalist. That is an emotional manipulation tactic to intimidate you into compartmentalizing your faith. But they'll never say that to the Christian progressive. They'll never call out Kamala Harris for being a Christian nationalist when she says something like, morning may last for the night, but joy comes in the morning. And she's talking about herself as the joy. She's saying that in a church from a pulpit. That's not Christian nationalism because she's a Democrat. It's not Christian nationalism when black churches do souls to the polls because they're voting Democrat. It's not Christian nationalism when someone uses a decontextualized verse from the Old Testament, like love the sojourner, to declare a justification for open borders. It's only Christian nationalism when your Christianity, when your faith informs your vote in a way that is Republican or conservative. And so it's completely duplicitous. It's completely hypocritical. Again, it is an intimidation tactic. You cannot separate your belief in God's existence, his authority, and the goodness of his ways from your politics, because if God's ways are better, then we want his ways for our neighbor. That doesn't mean a theocracy. We're not forcing people to be Christian. We're not forcing people to believe or worship or talk the way we do. We do believe in freedom of religion, but separation of church and state is not the separation of God and law. Separation of church and state is a doctrine that was in a letter to the Danbury Baptists from Thomas Jefferson that basically promised protection of the church against from the predation of the state. There is not a separation between God and law. The founders knew this very well, which is why they said that our rights actually come from our Creator. That's why they are transcendent and cannot be arbitrarily taken away from us by the state. This entire experiment, this entire idea of America, this entire idea of rights is founded upon the concept of God, of a transcendent power that is bigger than the state, giving us our right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And that first fundamental right is primary for a reason, because without the right to life, neither the right to liberty nor the right to happiness can exist. And the group that is not recognized as deserving that right is the most vulnerable group in the world, and that is the unborn child. And that is the person whose cause we must take up. And listen, neither candidate is as pro-life as I want them to be. That is for sure. Donald Trump has said things about abortion that I just really don't agree with at all. He is not nearly as pro-life as I am. And yet, because of the Dobbs decision, we have states that have been able to protect unborn children by passing legislation that honors the dignity of children inside the womb and protects their right to life. And I understand that he is going to continue to allow states to pass those laws. But if Kamala Harris, if she is able to get the power, she will federalize Roe, which means that no state will be able to restrict abortion before 24 weeks and virtually will not be able to restrict abortion after 24 weeks. And what I mean by that is that there may be some narrow exceptions that they can restrict abortion after 24 weeks, but it will be very difficult for them to do because it will have to fall under health of the mother. But health could really mean anything. It could be mental health. It could be emotional health. It could be financial state. That's defined by Doe v. Bolton. And so that's the difference between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. Kamala Harris wants to make America an abortion sanctuary, a place where everyone can go to murder their child through all 9 months. That's what she stands for. And Donald Trump, at the very least, will allow states to pass laws that protect babies inside the womb. And yet you're hearing so much misinformation about this. What you're hearing is that Kamala Harris is going to protect miscarriage care. And you're hearing a lot of stories about that. And so that's what we're going to get into first. I just want to debunk that. Kamala Harris is not going to protect miscarriage care. Abortion bans are not causing the lack of miscarriage care that we are seeing. And I'm going to show you some examples of the reporting that we've seen and debunk them for you that hopefully gives you the tools over the next 24 hours to talk to your friends. But first, let me pause. Let me tell you about our first sponsor. It's Carly Jean Los Angeles. I love CJLA. I'm wearing their Holland jeans right now in olive green. They're super cute wide leg jeans. I really love them. They go with everything. And I love CJLA. They have a lot of really basic, beautiful clothing items. All of their stuff is really flattering. I especially love their denim. I really can't stand wearing any other kind of jeans because they are They're just so comfortable and they don't stretch out too much, but they do have enough give and they're extremely flattering. CJLA has seen me through all different stages of life, all different seasons of the year. I've got stuff that I've been wearing for 5 years. That's just the classic look of CJLA. Go to carlyjeanlosangeles.com and use code AllieB for 20% off. carlyjeanlosangeles.com, code AllieB. All right. I saw this going around, and it was this little cartoon of Handmaid's Tale women going into the voting booth. And when they have come out of the voting booth, they've thrown off their Handmaid's Tale garbs and they're wearing their pantsuit, their tight dress, their skirt. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. And of course, what this cartoon is trying to demonstrate is that when women vote for Kamala Harris, they're no longer going to be a part of the Handmaid's Tale. So are they the Handmaid's Tale now while Biden is president and while Kamala Harris is the vice president? Have they been making women be, and like, let's think about what the Handmaid's Tale is. These women were forced to bear children for others. Like, you understand that actually does go on right now, that goes on in the surrogacy industry when men are renting the wombs of women and buying the eggs of other women, paying them, and then completely just like cutting them out of the baby's life in many cases. After these women have supplied them a child, they're purposely raising these motherless children and literally buying the bodies of women. To do it, like, the Handmaid's Tale in a modern sense actually does exist, but the left largely supports that. What is not the Handmaid's Tale is a woman voluntarily engaging in unprotected sex and then choosing to kill her child that was an outcome of her unprotected sex. And obviously the exception to that is rape, but rape accounts for less than 1% of all abortion cases. And I haven't met any pro-choice person who thinks that we should narrow our abortion allowance to cases of rape. So I'm not even sure why that's ever brought up. What we are talking about is the right to kill your child or not. And because babies inside the womb are human beings by DNA, they are also people. And because they are people, they are entitled to the most fundamental right to life, which is most fundamental human right, which is the right to life. And that is exactly why, because abortion is really so hard to defend, you can't defend it truthfully. You have to use euphemisms. You have to use lies. That's a really good indication that you're on the wrong side, by the way. If you can't just speak plainly and scientifically and medically about things, you have to use all kinds of language to cover up the reality of the barbarism of abortion. That's a big red flag. But because the Democrats really want that Christian woman vote. They really want the suburban mom. They really want the center-right woman. They are conflating abortion and miscarriage. And they are telling you that if you allow these pro-life laws to stand, which they still will, by the way, if Kamala Harris wins this election, then you are going to lose your ability to get miscarriage care. And by the way, if Kamala Harris wins, and all of these pro-life laws, by the way, in all of these states will still be in place. Like, they'll still be in place. Even if Kamala Harris wins, they will no longer be telling the stories about these women who are dying. This is only to get Kamala Harris elected, which is really disgusting. So she continues to go on the campaign trail. Michelle Obama was on the campaign trail saying that, look, you got to vote for Kamala Harris because it could be your daughter, your sister, your wife that is bleeding out on the hospital gurney and unable to get the care that she needs because of Trump's abortion bans. And here is an example of the kind of story that we are seeing that pulls on your heartstrings. Perfect example of toxic empathy. Gets you to feel exclusively for the woman involved and completely ignore the reality and morality of the situation. So ProPublica has been the outlet that has been publishing a lot of these stories. Here's a recent one. A pregnant teenager died after trying to get care in 3 visits to Texas emergency rooms. So Nevaeh Crane was 6 months pregnant when she became feverish and began vomiting while experiencing sharp abdominal pain. And she had actually just had her baby shower. And so she was excited to have her baby. She's really young, obviously 18 years old, but she was showing signs of an infection. And she went to these emergency rooms in Texas, and they gave her fluids, and I think they gave her pill antibiotics, but things just weren't getting better. And she eventually passed away, which is really sad. And everyone is sharing this story as an example of how the abortion ban in Texas killed this young woman. But here's the reality, because I read this piece. You know what I did not find? The prospect of abortion. She wasn't having a miscarriage. She didn't need an abortion. Abortion wasn't even on the table. The article said that the baby was fine, but as the infection was advancing, the baby's heartbeat was slowing down, which is very normal, especially if she had a high fever and couldn't get the fever to break. And sometimes the baby's heart rate will speed up because of that, which is very dangerous. But either way, neither of them were doing well. But she was 6 months along. She was past 24 weeks gestation, which means she was past the point of viability, which, if anything, meant that she could deliver early. There was never a need for an abortion here. And we're not even talking about a miscarriage. What we are looking at is a story of medical malpractice. She would not have been saved by an abortion in any way. She just needed IV antibiotics. ProPublica even admitted this, that the provider at the emergency room who sent her home from the second hospital had missed serious infections in other patients 8 years ago, resulting in the Texas Medical Board monitoring his practice for 2 years. So this is medical malpractice. This has nothing to do with the Texas law. And by the way, even if she had been before 24 weeks, say she had been at 16 weeks before the baby can survive outside of the womb, Texas law allows for a woman to have an abortion or to have an early delivery if it would save her life or save her from serious bodily harm. And so Texas law already has that exception. So this story literally has nothing to do with the problems with Texas law. And now the pushback I get, well, doctors are scared. Doctors are not scared to give antibiotics when needed. And if they are scared to give antibiotics when needed, it is not the law's fault. It is their fault. Obviously, what we are seeing in stories like this one is a huge competency crisis in the United States. And you know what? If Donald Trump wins, y'all are going to be really sorry that you highlighted all of this widespread malpractice that is happening in hospitals at the expense of women, because I think the people that he is going to appoint are really going to do something about that. They are actually going to investigate why this is happening. And you know what else? I received a message, and I've received many messages similar to this over the past couple of years since the Dobbs decision was released, which overturned Roe v. Wade and kind of kickstarted a bunch of these pro-life laws. I got a message yesterday, similar to others, saying that you did not get the miscarriage care that you needed, that you were bounced around from hospital to hospital. And this was recently, this was just a few months ago. And you were unable to get the miscarriage care that you needed, even though it was very obvious that you had a miscarriage. And guess where this person was? They were in California. California has some of the most radical pro-abortion laws in the world, but certainly in America. There's virtually no restriction on abortion in California. And so this is what I'm seeing, that women in red states over the past couple of years, many, many messages from you all, and I'm going to read some of them, telling me that you sadly have had a miscarriage over the past couple of years since the Dobbs decision. You live in a red state and you were able to get the miscarriage care that you need. And then I get messages from many women who are in Washington, in California, in New York, in Illinois, where there are very liberal abortion laws, because Dobbs didn't change that. Like, Dobbs didn't change the ability of these blue states to be able to have very liberal abortion laws, that you were not able to get the miscarriage care that you need. So obviously it's not the pro-life law's fault. Obviously, it is a competency crisis. Am I saying every doctor or even most doctors or most hospitals or most nurses? No, I'm not. But it's enough to be a problem. Here's the truth, is that every single pro-life law that has been passed makes very clear that what is restricted or what is prohibited is the purposeful termination of the life of an unborn child. We're not talking about miscarriages. Miscarriage is not an abortion. Miscarriage is not an abortion. I'm not talking about the insurance coding where it says spontaneous abortion versus an induced abortion. Spontaneous abortion is sometimes the phrasing used for miscarriage. That is not restricted in any way in these laws. These laws don't just say, hey, abortion is banned. The law says something like this, like here's the state of Texas. For example, abortion means the act of using or prescribing an instrument, a drug, a medicine, or any other substance, device, or means with the intent to cause the death of an unborn child of a woman known to be pregnant. The term does not include birth control devices or oral contraceptives. An act is not an abortion, the Texas law states, if the act is done with the intent to A, save the life or preserve the health of an unborn child, B, remove a dead unborn child whose death was caused by spontaneous abortion, or C, remove an ectopic pregnancy. The law also shields healthcare providers who inadvertently cause harm to an unborn child while treating his or her mother. And women upon whom abortions are performed are not to be prosecuted. So that is the state law. And I want to read you some of these testimonials from women who have said that they've had these miscarriage experiences in these red states, have gotten the great care that they needed over the past couple years. One, I live in Nebraska, which is a pro-life state with a 12-week abortion ban. I had a devastating 16-week miscarriage in December. There was absolutely no hesitation from my doctor or my hospital on getting me the D&C required to remove my daughter from my body. In fact, I had surgery the same exact day I found out my baby had died. Here's another. My sister received immediate and life-saving surgery and care for an ectopic pregnancy in Oklahoma not even 6 months ago. Them making a woman think that they won't receive care and or die if they miscarry is tragic. Here's another one. I'm married to a healthcare provider in PA, and I can affirm that he's seen loss not due to lack of access to abortion, but due to abortion complications themselves that were mishandled and had nothing to do with pro-life laws. That's exactly what happened with Amber Thurman. She was able to get abortion pills from North Carolina without even being seen, and because of that, she suffered complications from her abortion pill. The Georgia law had nothing to do with the fact that she died. It was medical malpractice, and it was complications from the abortion pill. In fact, if there had been a ban on that abortion pill in North Carolina, she and her babies would still be alive. Here's another one. I had an ectopic pregnancy over the summer, and guess what? Abortion laws never even came up because I wasn't having an abortion. I had a life-threatening situation that was handled by my doctors as fast as humanly possible. This is another person living in a red state. She said, I live in a state with the strictest abortion laws. The hospital was so concerned for my life that they had me come in to get an ultrasound almost every day until they located the pregnancy in my fallopian tube. Another comment, I had the same experience. Live in a red state with strict abortion laws, had an ectopic pregnancy over the summer, no issue getting the care that I needed. No one hesitated in the slightest. Some of my more progressive friends were surprised by this. They thought I would just be left to die. Here's another comment. My daughter lives in Louisiana, and since Dobbs, she has had 2 miscarriages, both at around 15 weeks. She immediately got miscarriage treatment. And here's the last comment. I'm in Texas and had a miscarriage D&C last November due to complications passing my deceased child, and then 10 months later monitored for an ectopic pregnancy for over 3 weeks till we could confirm my baby was not in the tube. It was an extremely bad ruptured cyst at 4 weeks, but never did my doctors compromise my care. So understand, when you are hearing a lot of these stories, I'm not saying that they are all false, but most of them are missing a lot of details. Most of them have nothing to do with abortion even. And this purposeful conflation of miscarriage and abortion, making you think that these pro-life laws restrict miscarriage care in any way, it's a lie to get you to vote for the Democrat who supports unrestricted abortion through all 9 months. We've got to be smarter than that. All right, I'm going to debunk one more story on this to hopefully give you the tools that you need that's a little bit different and more complicated in just a second. Let me pause and tell you about our next sponsor. It's Adele Natural Cosmetics. You guys know how much I love Adele Natural Cosmetics. I mean, they're a family-owned Christian company, and I can just trust that every ingredient that is in their that's in their items, that's in their products are really good for me, and that I am taking the best care of my skin that I possibly can. I am always, tempted by the latest tips and tricks for reducing wrinkles and fine lines. But honestly, I think Adele works the best for me because it just makes my skin so smooth, so moisturized, and it's completely holistic, which I love. And that's why I use their products every day. Go to AdeleNaturalCosmetics.com, enter promo code Allie for 25% off your first time purchase. AdeleNaturalCosmetics.com, code Allie. Here's the other Texas story that you're hearing by ProPublica. A woman was told she died after being told it would be a crime to intervene in her miscarriage at a Texas hospital. So this young woman, her name was Jolessi Barnica. She was 17 weeks pregnant when she was told that she was experiencing a miscarriage. She had cramps, but she was sent home. Within 2 hours, an ultrasound confirmed bulgy membranes in the vagina with the fetal head in the open cervix dilated at 8.9 centimeters. So she was like about to give birth to this baby. She had low amniotic fluid. This is an absolutely tragic incident, and the miscarriage was in progress, but the doctors apparently told her that they could not intervene until there was no heartbeat. So 40 hours after Barnica had arrived, doctors no longer detected any heart activity. She was given medication to speed up the labor, and then her baby, who had already died, was delivered. The doctor discharged her after 8 hours. 2 days after her delivery, she was rushed to the hospital by her husband, where she ended up dying. Barnica is at least one of 2 Texas women who ProPublica found lost their lives. And of course, they blamed the pro-life laws for this. But the American Association of Pro-Life OBGYNs has a response to this. They say Jolessi Barnica was in the middle of a spontaneous and inevitable miscarriage/delivery. Texas law would have allowed her physicians to expedite her delivery because it was imminent. Pro-life laws across the country allowed this before and after the Dobbs opinion and Texas law. Jolessi's cause of death lists sepsis from retained products of conception. So really what happened is that she delivered the baby, and either part of the placenta was left inside of her, part of the baby was left inside of her, which of course causes an infection. When she delivered, they left behind some pregnancy tissue. This is what APLOG says. She was sent home after those 8 hours. She shouldn't have been. She should have been kept and monitored. The standard practice did not change. What changed is the intentional lack of guidance from professional medical organizations. They are committing malpractice by intentionally creating confusion to blame the laws. The consequence of their malpractice is the death of these women. So there should be these medical organizations like ACOG, for example, or the hospitals themselves who are giving specific guidance to these doctors and nurses so that there's no confusion, because the law is actually clear. And I think that confusion is being caused by many of these organizations and by many of these people in these hospitals for political purposes. It's probably not the individual doctors and nurses, although, like, at the end of the day, you need to do what you have to do to save the life of this mom. Like, come on. But also, I really think that these organizations are like malicious. I really do. I think that they are causing confusion so that women will die, so that these stories will come out, so that people will vote Democrat. I didn't used to be that cynical. I'm that cynical now. And I'm really cynical about where journalism is. The Washington Post reported this. She said she had a miscarriage. Then she got arrested under an abortion law. This was on October 29th. Nicholas Kristof of the New York Times, he tweeted this out. He said, a struggling Nevada mom suffers a miscarriage. Then the police show up and arrest her for manslaughter, and she's sentenced to 2.5 to 8 years in prison. Only when a pro bono lawyer steps up and appeals does the judge reverse the conviction and set her free to return to her children. This is family values. Think about that as you vote. I mean, this is absolutely disgusting. This person who tweeted this has almost 2 million followers. The reason why this is disgusting is that, again, this has nothing to do with pro-life laws. This has nothing to do with a miscarriage. This woman purposely killed her baby when she was in the third trimester because she did not want the child. And guess what? This was in 2018. So this is before the Dobbs decision. In 2018, Patience Frazier, a mother of two, found herself pregnant with a third child as she struggled with homelessness and drug abuse. Without the means to drive herself to get an abortion, she began to engage in marijuana use, methamphetamines, and strenuous physical activity with the purpose of causing a miscarriage. And it worked. She delivered her deceased son between 28 and 32 weeks and buried him in her backyard. She was later arrested and charged with manslaughter, taking drugs with the specific intent of ending the pregnancy. Okay, so that's what happened. This story has nothing to do with the law. With the pro-life law. This has nothing to do with abortion restrictions. This has nothing to do with the Dobbs decision. This was 4 years before the Dobbs decision. So just understand, this is what you have to do when you are looking at these stories. When it's any story that tries to make you think that Dobbs restricted miscarriage care and that when Kamala Harris gets back in, that you're going to have this amazing miscarriage care and now you're unable to get it. That's just a lie. It is a lie. It is propaganda. What we are looking at is medical malpractice and journalistic malpractice. These are the problems here, not the pro-life laws. So these are the two things you have to think about when you are reading these stories. Check the details, check the dates. Check the details, check the dates. The details mean what actually happened in this story. Like, would this person have been saved by an abortion? Is that really what's going on here? Also, what does the law actually say? Go to the text of the law. Like I said, in every single state that has passed a pro-life law since Dobbs, there's exception for the life of the mother, and it carves out specifications for ectopic pregnancy removal. It defines abortion as purposely ending the life of the child, not miscarriage care. And so you got to think. I've gotten so many messages. What do I say to this? But what about this one? Or how do I respond to this? And while I would love to answer every single message that I get, like that's why I wrote the book Toxic Empathy, so that you would have the tools. That's why I do this podcast, so that you have the tools and you can do it. Because when I say that, when I respond kind of in that way, which I don't mean to be snappy or sassy at all, I sometimes get like, well, I just want you to tell me the answer. Or I just want you to give me some talking points. I get hundreds and hundreds of those messages every day. I don't have the capacity to do it. What happens is you do it and then you come back and you're like, okay, well, this is how I responded. And I'm like, that's brilliant. It's beautiful. You can do it. Please don't outsource your thinking to me. That's not why I exist. I exist to persuade and to try to give as many tools as I can. That doesn't mean I'm always right, but I tried the best that I can to navigate with clarity and courage and to give you the tools to do the same. And you guys are totally capable. Everyone is totally capable of doing that. If I am, you are. And so just think, read the article, read the law, think. And if you don't know the answer, that's okay. But ask questions and understand. Always start with any pro-abortion position or article or argument being wrong. Always start from that and then back up from there. Babies deserve a right to life. Babies are human beings. They're made in the image of God. They deserve the legal right to life, and praise God that we have states who are able to recognize that in the law. All right, you're hearing a couple other pieces of propaganda when it comes to this subject. Let me pause and go ahead and tell you about our next sponsor. That is 7 Weeks Coffee. 7 Weeks Coffee is America's pro-life coffee company on a mission to fund the pro-life movement, one cup of coffee at a time. Why are they called 7 weeks? Because at 7 weeks, a baby is the size of a coffee bean, and at the same time, a heartbeat is clearly detected on an ultrasound. I love a 7 Weeks Coffee. I love drinking 7 Weeks Coffee, but more than that, I love supporting them because they have donated over $500,000 to pro-life pregnancy centers across the country. They are amazing people. I've met them. They were at Share the Arrows providing coffee for us. They are like the real deal. They are in this because they love high quality coffee, but they also love those babies inside the womb. Join the Heartbeat Club. Get that box of coffee to your front door every month. You'll save 15% when you do that. Plus, when you use my code Allie, you save an extra 10% on your order. So go to 7weekscoffee.com, code Allie. All right, you're also hearing that maternal mortality is up because these abortion bans are in place because of Donald Trump's overturning of Roe v. Wade. Well, I also consulted APLOG about this, the American Association of Pro-Life OBs and Gynecologists. And here's what they say. Restricting abortion does not lead to increased maternal mortality. The risk of death from induced abortion increases by 38% for every week after 8 weeks gestation. Abortion is very, very risky for the mother. Here's what they also say, that the CDC relies heavily on death certificates to determine maternal deaths, but death certificates have been proven unreliable in accurately identifying all maternal deaths. Published abortion mortality rates are inaccurate because the total number of legal abortions performed in the U.S. is not known. Only 12 states require coroners, emergency rooms, and other healthcare providers to report abortion-related complications or deaths for investigation. So we really don't have good numbers on that. And truly, as APLOG says, abortion is dangerous. It's dangerous for the mother. We also hear that infant mortality has increased because of abortion bans. And I just think this is stupid altogether, that really, if we just think for 1 second, like, what is the mortality rate of abortion for the baby? It's 100%. Like, abortion kills a baby. You're trying to tell me that we should be for abortion to save the babies? Infant mortality doesn't increase because of abortion bans. Abortion causes infant mortality. You idiots. But what they're saying is that babies who are not aborted, who have these fetal anomalies, they are actually born and they die after birth. Well, yeah, when you're not dismembering the baby with trisomy 18 inside the womb, that baby is going to be delivered and probably die. The thing is, though, that baby will be delivered, will be held, will be loved, will be cherished, will die in his parents' arms, will be buried. If that baby with trisomy 18 or trisomy 13 had been aborted at, say, 24 weeks, well, he would have been poisoned, he would have been dismembered with forceps, he would have been discarded like medical waste, his parents would have never been able to see him. And so if you've got to deliver the baby either way and it's a dead baby versus a whole living baby, I think the better alternative is the whole living baby, which also reminds me of the whole Kate Cox story. I can. It's really sad. I mean, she's the woman out of Texas who is using her, the murder of her child to get Democrats elected in the state. And it's just really sad. I mean, she was also at the State of the Union. People were applauding her, but she is the mom who found out that her baby, I think it was trisomy 13, that her baby had that fetal anomaly, I think at the 20-week mark. And of course, in Texas, you can't just abort your baby at 20 weeks because he or she has special needs. And she didn't want to deliver the baby. Basically, she didn't want to waste this delivery on the baby because she had had a previous C-section and she wanted to have a VBAC. And she knew that she would have to have another C-section this go round with this baby, which would decrease her chances of being able to have a VBAC with her next baby. A VBAC is a vaginal birth after cesarean. I had a VBAC after 2 C-sections. So when I was reading her case, I understood very much the medical terminology and the risks that she was talking about. And basically, she just wanted to abort this baby. She didn't want to do an early delivery. She wanted to make sure that the baby was killed so that she could try again for a VBAC with her next baby. And she's supposed to be seen as some hero. She actually traveled out of state to be able to abort her child. Well, I know many, many parents whose baby was diagnosed with trisomy 18 or trisomy 13, and their stories are beautiful and redemptive, and they were able to deliver that baby and hold that baby and name that baby and see that baby and love that baby and kiss that baby before he or she took her final breath. Like, that is the way to go. That is the heroic action, not traveling out of state so you can have an abortion. And so Kate Cox is being used as a form of toxic empathy to blind you to the reality of abortion and the significance of that baby inside the womb that does not deserve to die just because he or she has some kind of abnormality. So I just want to make it clear that Kamala Harris is not a vote for women just because she supports abortion through 9 months. I can't even believe I'm getting asked where did she say that she supports abortion through 9 months? Oh my gosh, I don't even have time to get into all of that today. Go back and listen to several of my previous episodes where we listen to her talk. We look at her policy. She is for unfettered abortion. She has voted against any and every restriction on abortion. She has fought against it tooth and nail. She will sacrifice every other right that you have to make sure that you can kill your children. That is who she is as a person. She also doesn't care about the safety of women, which is why she has advocated for illegal immigration for so long. There's this horrible story, and we don't have too much time left, so I'm going to kind of have to speed through the rest of this episode. But there's this horrible story that is coming out of Georgia. This is actually a Puerto Rican woman. So maybe instead of focusing on a joke about Puerto Rico, like we actually look at the Puerto Ricans who live here in the continental United States who are getting killed by illegal aliens. And maybe we vote based on that, not vote based on whether our feelings were hurt by an off-color joke. This is according to the New York Post. Body of Georgia mom Manilis Zoe Rodriguez Ramirez was found a week after she vanished from Walmart. Angel de Jesus Rivera Sanchez, 24, was arrested in Atlanta last Monday and charged with kidnapping related to the disappearance of Manilis Zoe Rodriguez Ramirez, a 25-year-old mother who documented her fitness journey on TikTok. According to press releases by Georgia State Senator John Albers and Steve Gooch, Rivera Sanchez was an illegal immigrant who was trying to flee back to Mexico when he was apprehended by law enforcement in Atlanta. The victim in this case was an immigrant herself who moved from Puerto Rico because she secured employment. She was a mother. Her life is now over because this illegal alien supposedly kidnapped her from Walmart. That was the last place she was seen, and murdered her violently. Of course, this seems to be a pattern for a lot of these illegal aliens. In Louisiana, Kenner police arrested a teen who was an illegal alien of raping multiple children. 17-year-old Luis Renan Bonilla Alfaro, who is in the country illegally, was arrested last Monday after an anonymous tip was called into the police station that he had raped and sexually assaulted 2 children. He is enrolled as a student at a public high school. This is what DACA, by the way, would get us. It would protect even these young men. Confessed to forcing at least 2 boys. 2 boys. Listen to this. This is so disturbing. This is illegal immigration. Now, I'm not saying all illegal immigrants, but this is what we get when we allow illegal immigration. He forced at least 2 boys, ages 4 and 7, 4, to perform sex acts on him. He also admitted to filming the children on his phone. Gosh. When police searched his phone, they found a 3rd victim, also a minor, who had not yet been identified. Later last week, one more victim came forward along with a 3rd victim who had been filmed on the phone. He faces charges of first-degree rape, sexual battery, pornography involving juveniles, and indecent behavior with juveniles. Sexually assaulted a 4-year-old child. Every single crime committed by an illegal alien, every single one, every rape, every assault, every murder, every instance of theft is preventable. That is the difference between a crime committed by an illegal alien and a crime committed by a citizen. Not every crime committed by a citizen is preventable. Every crime committed by an illegal alien is preventable by just immigration law. We've got in the state of New York, this is according to CBS, a migrant arrested in New York for allegedly raping a 5-year-old girl. New York authorities announced Friday the arrest of 26-year-old Wilson Castillo Diaz, an illegal immigrant, for allegedly raping a 5-year-old girl on Long Island. Diaz is facing charges of rape, attempted rape, and endangering the welfare of the child. Authorities said Diaz was placed under arrest by U.S. Border Patrol after entering the U.S., but he was ultimately released. He later failed to appear for an immigration court hearing. In Florida, woman calls 911 for pizza, gets rescued from illegal immigrant during alleged rape attempt. The suspect, 27-year-old Luis Diego Hernandez Moncayo, is in the U.S. illegally from Mexico, the sheriff's office confirmed to Fox News Digital. Hernandez had applied for asylum the day before the alleged attack. He was charged with attempted sexual battery by strangulation, and false imprisonment. In Florida, illegal immigrants arrested in Florida after sex trafficking a 15-year-old runaway girl from NYC. They were arrested in Palm Beach. In Louisiana, Honduran illegal migrant arrested for rape of girl 14, stabbing a man during knife point during robbery. He is an illegal immigrant from Honduras, 19 years old. This is illegal immigration. This is what Kamala Harris has allowed for the past 3.5 years as borders are. This is what she pushed for when she was Attorney General of California and when she was District Attorney of San Francisco. She enabled the vicious murder of Kate Steinle, of Laken Riley. It's the kind of policies that led to the death of Molly Tibbetts. And over again, this is why strong borders are not only practically good, but biblically righteous and loving and compassionate and kind. For the sake of women, for the sake of children, we should deport every illegal alien. And not even that, but if you rape a child, you should be publicly hung. You should. If you rape or sexually assault a child, I think public execution would not only do that person good, but would also do the country good. I really do. I fail to see how anything less than that is justice. When you're talking about raping a 5-year-old, yeah, I think that would probably end real fast if we just had a consistent capital punishment for that across the board. But if that's not going to happen, I think that we should settle for deportation. And remember, Kamala Harris has said over and over again, just as we played last week, that crossing the border illegally is not a crime. That means that she doesn't believe that there is a basis for deportation if you're here illegally. You have to wait until you rape a child, I guess. And that is not to say every illegal immigrant has done something like that. I've never argued for that. However, even if it's just one, which it's not, it's thousands and thousands and thousands. But even if it's just one bad apple, that is justification for securing our border. And even if there were no bad apples, we should still secure our border because every country has the right and responsibility to protect its own citizens first. And then lastly, of course, Kamala Harris has been a part of erasing women with the change of Title IX. Let me pause and tell you about our last sponsor for the day. It's Samaritan's Purse. If you actually want to help kids, if you want to bring joy to poor and vulnerable kids across the country, you can share with them the love of Christ by showing them generosity through Operation Christmas Child. They've been doing this for so many years, since 1993. I've been building these boxes for so long through my church, and now my kids get to do so. And they collect boxes of non-perishable items, of fun toys for boys and girls of different age groups, and then they deliver them throughout the year to these kids in poor countries who have never had a gift in their life. And if you go to SamaritansPurse.org/OCC, you can read more about it, see how you can build a box, where you can drop off the box. There are thousands of drop-off locations across the country. You can look to see where those drop-off locations are. Maybe it's even your church. You can see that picture right there if you're watching of these children. They are truly so joyful. I have a friend who's from Africa who has actually seen these kids open these boxes, and she said it was life-changing for her just to see the joy that it brings to those kids. And just praise God. I pray the gospel gets to each one of those children and that they feel the love of Christ. So be a part of that. Go to SamaritansPurse.org/OCC. All right, quickly, we've talked about this a lot, just the danger, the predation of gender ideology, but you should know that it's coming for your child. It's coming for your school. It's coming for your home in the state of California, where Kamala Harris is from and reigned for a long time. It is now legal to take a child, and you are recommended to take a child out of the custody of the parents who won't go along with the child's so-called gender transition. The Biden-Harris rule expands the scope of Title IX. This is what they did. Expanded the scope of Title IX to cover so-called gender identity, making it discriminatory for a school to deny a student access to opportunities, activities, and spaces that match his or her so-called gender identity. That means, translation, if a boy says, I'm a girl, 18-year-old boy says, I'm a girl, he gets to go into the bathroom with the 13 and 14-year-old girls. So this is a fully intact male. Many times he's actually attracted to women, gets to go and change in front of them, and they get no say over that. We've already heard stories over and over again of this happening. This has nothing to do with authenticity. This has nothing to do with love. This has to do with violating the rights and the privacy and the safety and the protection of vulnerable girls. According to Redux, an Oklahoma school was sued by the mother of a female student assaulted by a trans-identifying male in a woman's bathroom. So this is even happening in red states. According to the lawsuit, the trans-identifying student had been removed from the school by police just days prior to the assault after making threats against the victim. According to the New York Post, a Massachusetts girls' high school basketball team forfeited a game in February after 3 girls were injured by a trans-identifying male during the game. Via Independent Women's Forum, we had Peyton McNabb on this show. Go watch that episode. North Carolina high school volleyball player Peyton McNabb suffered serious head injuries after a male trans-identifying player spiked a ball at her head at an abnormally fast speed. She went to the hospital. She had a brain bleed. She has permanent neck damage because she was forced to play against a male, a teenage girl. They're losing scholarships. They're losing their voice. They're losing their right to privacy, their right to safety. There is a reason why we have sex-exclusive spaces. It's not for the protection of men. It's for the protection of women. Not for people who identify as women, but people who are biologically female. And so if you care about your child's sports, if you care about your daughter's spaces, if you want to be able to legally kick out a man that is trying to share the restroom with your little 5-year-old girl at Chick-fil-A, then you should vote against Kamala Harris, because this is actually what Kamala Harris can do. Without Congress, she can't do much on abortion. So by the way, those of you who are voting for her thinking that she's going to change the game on abortion, she has to get Congress to do that. She doesn't need Congress to change Title IX. She is going to do whatever she can through bureaucracy, through her 5,000 hires. By the way, that's what you're voting for. The 5,000 people that are going to be under her authority, that are going to be hired by her. She can use them to ensure that the policy like Title IX is changed to include men who identify as women. She also believes in a violation of parental rights. The Biden-Harris rule says that it trumps parents' rights, including their right to access their child's information, their health information. This new Biden-Harris rule admits it may override parents' request to treat students in accordance with biology or access records related to gender identity. They also don't believe in the freedom of speech when it comes to so-called gender identity. The Biden-Harris rule expands the definition of unlawful sexual harassment to include unwelcome conduct that is severe or pervasive, thus pressuring schools to police and punish any quote-unquote offensive speech about sex, sex roles, gender, or gender identity. That includes misgendering someone. So if you misgender someone under this rewrite of Title IX, according to the Harris-Biden administration, you could be sued for sexual harassment of a child. So if you are a teacher, a Christian teacher at a public school or any institution that takes Title IX funding, then you could be not only fired, but sued for sexual harassment of a child because you refuse to call a boy she. That is Harris-Biden. It mandates harmful medical practices because the law governing sex discrimination in healthcare incorporates Title IX. The Harris-Biden rule will also be used to require healthcare providers, hospitals, and insurers to provide and pay for irreversible transgender procedures. The Harris-Biden rule transforms Title IX from a statute that prohibits schools from discriminating on the basis of sex into a statute that requires all schools to monitor and police the behavior of students online, off campus, outside the United States that they fear could offend the boy who identifies as the girl or the girl who identifies as the boy. They have to be allowed into opposite sex spaces. Just really disgusting. And then last but not least, the way that Kamala Harris harms our daughters and our granddaughters and our sisters and our friends. The Democrat Party believes in drafting women into the military. This is according to the Heritage Foundation. In July, the Senate introduced the fiscal year 2025 National Defense Authorization Act, which authorizes funding levels for the military and other defense-related areas. The bill not only mandates, but would automatically register all women 18 to 26 for selective service, or what is known as the military draft. While the NDAA is crafted by Congress, Harris, along with other senior officials, promotes the administration's defense strategy and priorities, ensuring they are reflected in legislation. The NDAA was only in committee. It has now been introduced on the Senate floor. She absolutely would sign off on that. And by the way, I think that Harris means more foreign wars, because under Donald Trump, we saw peace, and under Biden, we saw war. She is completely incompetent. She's never shown stability or character. And whether you like Donald Trump or not, he was able to negotiate very well with those foreign leaders and was able to strike the Abraham Accords in the Middle East, which was unprecedented peace, really incredible. Harris has never demonstrated that kind of competence or ability to bring about peace and order. In fact, she will be seen as a weak leader. She will be a laughingstock. So if you want more war and you want your daughters to be drafted, definitely vote for Kamala Harris. If you don't, vote for Donald Trump. Trump is not your boyfriend. He is not your pastor. He is not your Valentine. Your vote is not an endorsement of everything that he has ever done. You are hiring a man to do a dirty job. And you are hiring a guy that's better than the other. You are making a choice between a set of policies. His policies are better. Her policies are harmful. That's the end of the story. This is the last episode that I am going to be doing before voting. If you are still undecided, if you know people who are undecided, then watch this episode, but watch all my other episodes too. Like over the past, I would say 3 weeks, especially maybe month, we have really hammered hard on policy on both sides. And I just want you to know the truth. Listen to them on 2 times if you have to. Binge listen to them. Get informed. Make sure your friends are informed. Gosh, I feel like we have been working as hard as we possibly can just to reach my demographic on this. And I'm just represent a small piece of the pie, but we all just have to do our part. And I'm thankful to all of you who have. This election is really important, but no matter what, God reigns, and I'm going to be here tomorrow, and I'll be talking about whatever we want to tomorrow. Maybe we'll just more have like a lighthearted episode tomorrow, because there won't be any point in trying to convince people, but maybe we'll just look at kind of like the best of this election and some of the craziest moments that happened. Or if you have any other ideas, let me know, but that'll come out tomorrow afternoon. And then I will be on the Blaze election special, offering commentary on that tomorrow night. You can watch that on Blaze TV, and you can also watch it on YouTube. I think it starts at 6 Eastern time, so make sure you tune in for that. All right, y'all. It is almost here. I will see y'all tomorrow.